Welcome back to Noir Alley, TCM's weekly foray into the world of film noir. I'm your host, Eddie Muller. This weekend we have an unusual offering, a film combining the grit of a Prohibition-era gangster saga with the glitz and glam of a lavish MGM musical from 1958. It's Party Girl. Now, if it sounds like a strange hybrid, believe me, it is. Party Girl is an oddity in the history of its studio, MGM, and it's unlike any other film on the resume of its director, Nicholas Ray. But before we get into its production history, I want to say a few words about how a person, in this case me, develops their taste and opinions concerning movies. Now, when I got into classic films in my late teens, one of the directors I was most enamored with was Nicholas Ray. Although pre-VHS, it wasn't always easy to find his films. Yes, I am that old. In fact, it was easier to find enthusiastic interpretations of his films, especially from adoring cinephiles who lionized Ray as one of the great American auteurs. Jean-Luc Godard went so far as to declare, "Nicholas Ray is the cinema." So when I first saw Party Girl more than 40 years ago, I revered it as a singular work of cinematic art. Because Nick Ray was the greatest, and that's all there was to it. Now, I am in debt to film historian Bernard Eisenschitz for putting things in proper perspective in his indispensable book, Nicholas Ray, An American Journey. It balanced the facts of Ray's career against fantasies conjured by rabid cinema theorists. And much of my knowledge about the making of Party Girl comes from his research. Now, Ray had several reasons for taking this for-hire assignment. First, he was attracted to a story set in 1930s Chicago, which is where he grew up and went to university. He had lived through the Capone era depicted in Leo Katcher's original story. Secondly, Katcher's unwieldy 271-page screenplay was being whipped into shape by writer-producer Charles Schnee, who 10 years earlier had collaborated with Ray on his debut film, They Live by Night. Now, coming off a pair of debilitating and backstabbing productions, Bitter Victory and Wind Across the Everglades, Ray was eager to have a comrade like Schnee as his producer, and Ray was also in terrible shape physically, caused not only by the exhaustion of shooting his two previous films on location, but by his penchant for self-medicating with alcohol and narcotics. Since Party Girl was to be filmed entirely on MGM sound stages, Ray hoped the experience might be a restorative one. Now, the rug was pulled out from under him quickly when Charles Schnee turned the production over to Joe Pasternak, whose experience was with musicals, not noir, which was more Schnee's métier. Likewise, the final script was by George Wells, a musical comedy writer, and Ray was allowed little input on the script, which was unusual for him. Still, the director was eager to work with his two stars, Robert Taylor and Sid Charisse, for whom he had much respect and admiration.
Would you like to take me home?
Not particularly. Why?
Would you dance with me? It's only a dance.
But he was informed early on that under MGM protocol, he would not be allowed to direct any of the film's musical numbers. That was the exclusive province of the film's choreographer, Robert Sidney, who'd already worked with Sid Charisse. According to Ray, Sidney acted almost as a guard dog, keeping him away from the actress, which is truly unfortunate because Ray was an actor's director. Like Andre Dutoth, he could get things out of actors they'd never shown before. And he'd looked forward to building a real character with Charisse, but was disappointed to find himself almost completely insulated from her. She was counting down her final days at MGM and had little interest in exploring her character. To her, it was just one more movie. So instead of working to get an internalized performance from Charisse, Ray opted to use her unique appeal in creative ways. And he and cinematographer Richard Bronner photographed the actress in almost fetishistic fashion, using wardrobe, lighting, and color to evoke emotions the actress just was not inclined to express. In fact, the use of color in this movie is nothing short of dazzling. Wait, did I say color? In film noir? Is that allowed? Well, purists, brace yourselves. This is the week Noir Alley breaks the color barrier. I suddenly feel like Branch Rickey. Next thing you know, we'll be showing Leave Her to Heaven, Slightly Scarlet, Violent Saturday, and Niagara. And what the hell would be wrong with that? Frankly, I don't worry about whether or not a color film can be considered noir or if Party Girl can be labeled a film noir or not. To me, it's a strange and spellbinding aberration, one of the weirder offerings on the resume of its director, a guy whose talent extended far beyond the constraints of noir, but who understood the heart of darkness better than most directors in Hollywood. Robert Taylor and Sid Charisse had been two of the brightest stars in the MGM firmament, but this would be the last film either would make under contract to the Tiffany studio. Their swan song was for an idiosyncratic artist trying to assert his vision within one of the industry's most rigid studios. Featuring Lee J. Cobb in a not-too-veiled caricature of Al Capone, this is Party Girl.